Hello, you're watching Shalom World News. I'm Rory McLennan coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Thanks to the innovative Humanitarian Corridors project, a group of 152 Afghan refugees has arrived in Rome. The refugees, travelling from Islamabad in Pakistan, were welcomed at Fiumicino Airport in the Italian capital. The Humanitarian Corridors project provides vulnerable people with a safe and legal transit as they leave violence, poverty, persecution and injustice. Their arrival in Rome coincides with one of the worst food crises in human history, as well as growing Taliban-led restrictions on rights and freedoms in Afghanistan. The arrival of the refugees was facilitated by the community of Sant'Egidio. They will be sheltered and helped to become self-sufficient and integrate into Italian society. World Youth Day, which will be held in Portugal's capital Lisbon from August the 1st to the 6th of next year, has already attracted more than 200,000 young people from around the world. A month after Pope Francis registered as the first pilgrim of the Youth Day, the local organising committee revealed that there is a massive surge in registrations. The committee reports that there are delegates registered from over 120 nations, including from Europe, Africa and North, Central and South America. The European nations with the most entries are Portugal and Spain, followed by Poland and Italy. The United States, Brazil, Mexico and Ecuador have also registered huge interest. Mozambique, Angola and Guinea-Bissau make up the majority of the African contingent. Through the official website, people can sign up to be volunteers or pilgrims for the Youth Festival and the Vocational Fair at World Youth Day Lisbon 2023. A court in Hong Kong has imposed a fine on Cardinal Joseph Zen and 5 others after being found guilty of failing to register a now defunct fund that helped those who were arrested in pro-democracy protests. It was on Friday that the Cardinal, singer Denise Ho, scholar Hui Po Kyung and former pro-democracy lawmakers Margaret Ngo and Sid Ho were fined 4,000 Hong Kong dollars each. Another defendant, Se Ching Wei, was issued a fine of 2,500 Hong Kong dollars. Cardinal Zen arrived in court dressed in black and walked with the help of a cane. He was arrested in May on suspicion of colluding with foreign forces under the national security law. After nearly 3 decades of working with churches to bring Christmas gifts and the gospel to more than 170 nations, US non-governmental organisation Samaritan's Purse's Operation Christmas Child will send its 200 millionth shoebox full of toys this season to a child in Ukraine. In December, the 200 millionth shoebox will be hand-delivered to a Ukrainian child by former Ukrainian shoebox recipient Elizabeth Groff. The Evangelical Aid Society has run food and medicine distribution programs in Ukraine since the Russian invasion started in February. Through Operation Christmas Child, the group established the 3,200 church network that it has been using to distribute food. The Christian Missionary Program partners with churches throughout the United States, Germany, the United Kingdom, Canada and South Korea to deliver shoeboxes filled with toys, school supplies and hygiene items for children in countries suffering from war, disease, poverty and disaster. Over 198 million children in more than 170 nations have received gifts from the initiative. A prominent Nigerian Archbishop has said that the West African nation needs leaders who are capable of managing the cultural and religious diversity of the country. In a November the 22nd report, Archbishop Matthew Manoso of Kaduna said the West African nation's diverse cultures and religious affiliations are a blessing from God. In the report, the Archbishop also claims that the difficulties Nigerians have faced since 2015 are the result of political leaders who reject diversity. He implores voters to vote for candidates who are conscious of the country's variety in February's general elections. Additionally, Archbishop Ndagoso exhorted the Muhammadu Buhari-led administration to deal with the issue of national security. The United States has issued sanctions on 3 Iranian security officials as the government tries to crack down on protests in parts of Iran that are predominantly Kurdish. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken charged Hassan Asghari, Ali Reza Moradi and Mohammad Taghi Osanlu with participating in human rights abuses. This was announced in a press release on Wednesday. It stated that the human rights abuses inflicted by Iran's government on its people must not go without consequence. The sanctions come as protests in Iran continue following the custodial death of 22-year-old Kurdish girl Mahsa Amini following physical torture. She was arrested by morality police for improperly wearing the hijab. According to human rights activists in Iran, at least 426 people have died and more than 17,400 have been detained as the government tries to put an end to the demonstrations. Iran has resisted criticism of its record on human rights, branding Western governments as hypocrites and claiming at a United Nations meeting that the government has exercised deep moderation in handling the protests. The Catholic Bishops' Conference in Mali has said that they have no news of the whereabouts of abducted German missionary Father Hans Joachim Lohe. He was kidnapped by armed men on Sunday, November the 20th. The 65-year-old priest is a member of the Missionaries of Africa, or the White Fathers. Cardinal Jean Zerbo of Bamako Archdiocese said in a statement that they have no further news or contacts with the kidnappers of Father Lohe. The Cardinal appealed to all believers to pray for the speedy release of the missionary and of all the kidnapped. In his statement, he concluded with a prayer saying, "May Our Lady of Mali intercede for him, for us, and all the kidnapped and hostages not only in Mali, but throughout the world." Recreating the nativity scene is one of the most beloved Christmas traditions around the world. Some communities take it further, however, as seen in the Irish capital city of Dublin. The moving crib has been a key feature of Christmas in Dublin for the past 66 years. Organised by the St Martin Apostolate, the nativity scene will be situated at Parnell Square West in Dublin. Doors to this enthralling wonderland opened on November the 24th and will continue until January the 8th. The organisers have announced that entry is free, although booking is essential. The moving crib, which has been commemorating the Christmas story in Dublin city centre since 1956, features a montage of biblical and historical tales, including those of Noah's Ark and the Wise Men, as well as numerous other Bible scenarios that conclude with the nativity scene. It is the only structure of its kind constructed in Ireland and is both a historical and enjoyable experience that appeals to both adults and to children. France has moved a step closer to becoming the first country in the world to enshrine abortion as a constitutional right. This comes after lawmakers in the lower house approved a resolution allowing abortion access. Proposed by left-wing coalition members, the bill is claimed to be protecting and guaranteeing the fundamental right to voluntary termination of pregnancy. However, the Senate must approve the measure before it can be placed to a national vote. The National Assembly vote is the first step in establishing abortion as a constitutional right. The bill was passed in the lower house with 337 members voting in favour, with 32 opposed. It must have equal votes in the lower house and the Senate to modify the constitution. However, the bill was rejected by the Senate last month. It was proposed in response to the recent US Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which legalised abortion on a national level in the United States. Since a pro-abortion law was introduced in France in 1975, termination of pregnancy up to 14 weeks is legal in the country. Close on the heels of the apostolic visit of Pope Francis to Bahrain, archaeologists have announced that the remains of an ancient Christian monastery have been discovered. The monastery was built between the 6th and 8th centuries, and its remains were found beneath the remnants of a 300-year-old mosque. This discovery provides more information about the island's pre-Islamic Christian history. According to The National, an excavation project has been going on the island of Muharraq for the past 3 years. Salman al-Mahari, the Director of Antiquities and Museums at the Bahrain Authority for Culture and Antiquities, said that it would be fascinating to discover more evidence of Christian presence. Last year, researchers found early Christian artefacts, including masonry and glazed pottery marked with a little cross. Earlier this month, the Tourism and Archaeology Department of the United Arab Emirates discovered an ancient Christian monastery in the island of Al-Siniyah that predates the advent of Islam. The organisers of the Quito 2024 International Eucharistic Congress have released the official prayer for the 53rd Ecclesial Gathering, which will take place in the Ecuadorian capital from September the 8th to the 15th. The prayer was released on November the 22nd after reading the decree approved by Archbishop Alfredo José Espinosa Mateos of Quito in the presence of the archdiocesan clergy. The objective of the prayer is to unite people for this great religious congress and to understand that it is an energy source for the country, for those who work in its organisation, and for all the dioceses of the world. The upcoming Eucharistic Congress is special for the country as it is celebrating the 150th anniversary of the consecration of Ecuador to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. The theme of this will be Fraternity to Heal the World. You are all brothers. The Armenian Catholic Patriarchate exhorted the faithful to pray for the people of northeastern Syria during Advent season. The Catholic Patriarch issued an invitation seeking prayers to bring peace, to end the suffering and ongoing dangers in the country. The Patriarch had stated that with the coming of Jesus the Saviour, believers should ask the Lord to bring peace to the suffering people and to the land which is tormented with terror and artillery attacks. The northeastern part of Syria has been the target of shelling and military raids carried out by Turkish armed forces against Kurdish targets. A month after the canonization of St. Artemide Zati, the bishops of Argentina named the Salesian pharmacist as the patron saint of nurses in the South American country. The decision came in the plenary assembly of the Argentine Episcopal Conference, held from November the 7th to the 11th. The Episcopal Commission for Pastoral Health suggested considering the life of the holy man who dedicated his life as a nurse of the poor, as his saintly life will be an inspiration for those serving in the nursing field. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again tomorrow for more, and do remember, you can also visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.